And welcome to the Deuce Podcast. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy, it's episode 167.
Ooh.
And it's the beginning of the new year, and it's 2022.
Yes.
We made it that far. And some people didn't get to make it that far. We are celebrating some of the people that we recently lost in the entertainment world. One of those is the great Sidney Poitier, who we lost, I want to say, a couple days ago from this recording.
Yeah, a couple days before this recording.
Yeah, and we are doing the sequel to In the Heat of the Night called...
They call me Mr. Tibbs.
We're doing the 1970 film sequel to the follow-up of In the Heat of the Night called They Call Me Mr. Tibbs, or They Call Me Mr. Tibbs.
Yeah.
Because the Mr.
Well, and most places that you see this now have it all like in the regular like mixed case titling, but the original
was Mr.
Yeah, the original card was that they had Mr. all in capitals.
Yeah. Or they had Mr. as Mr. from the 80s band.
Yes.
They called me Mr. Tibbs. Kyrie.
Exactly like
Again,
that.
Sidney Poitier is in the title role, as he was in the Heat of the Night. This time he is not in the South. He's not even in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
He's in San Francisco. So there's a lot of inconsistencies from the first movie that don't add up to this movie or the novel itself.
Yeah.
Which the novel was in Pasadena, I think, right?
Yeah.
Pasadena, California? That's where the novels were? I want to say. Sorry, that's our cat.
Our cat had to sit through this too, so she's weighing in.
She loves Sidney Poitier.
She does love Sidney Poitier, but not a big Virgil Tibbs fan.
To serve love. All right. This movie also stars Martin Landau and a toupee wearing Edward Asner.
Yep, and Anthony Zerbe.
Anthony Zerbe?
Yeah, so Anthony Zerbe, who we might remember from like the Matrix 2, so he's like a Deuce alum. So he's been in some films. I think he was in the Omega Man as well. But yeah, again, like it's got a decent cast to it. It also was the first on-screen role of John Hillerman.
Oh, Higgins
from Magna PI.
Mm-hmm.
It was his first role.
Yes.
It was uncredited, but he was like a reporter, and he looks just as old as ever. And he was 38
like he's 60
at the time.
Then.
Yeah, and he was 38 at the time.
He always looks like he was like 55, 60.
Yeah.
No matter what he was playing. And he was in a bunch of Ellery Queen stuff before Magna PI.
Even Ed Asner. So
he looks young, but yeah, he's wearing a toupee.
A very clear toupee. And he is I mean it's very obvious. And but even then, like, it makes him look a little bit younger, but not young enough. And so but he was only 40 when this filmed, so
yes. Directed by Gordon Douglas. Gordon Douglas, a couple of years before this, directed the movie The Detective with Frank Sinatra, and that's what the movie or the novel The Detective, which is modeled after Die Hard, which we've talked about like 400 times about on this podcast. So there you go. That was set in San Francisco as well.
Yes.
So I don't know if they're just reusing sets
Probably.
from that, but it kind of feels like it. But we'll get to it. But do we have a plot synopsis for this, Jeremy?
We do. Let me get that up here real quick. In San Francisco, a high-priced call girl is murdered, and the case is assigned to Police Lieutenant Virgil Tibbs.
No, murdered, but yeah, we'll talk about how here in a moment. But.
His investigation has him crossing paths with suspects such as liberal street preacher and political candidate Logan Sharp, played by Martin Landau, real estate owner and philanderer Woody Garfield, played by Ed Asner.
Edward Asner.
Edward Asner. Yes, he's credited as Edward Asner.
Edward Asner.
Edward Asner. And drug-dealing pimp Rice Whedon, played by Anthony Zerbe.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Tibbs is battling domestic woes, including a frustrated wife and a rebellious adolescent son.
Okay.
And
yeah, we'll talk about the family stuff too, which kind of comes in a little weird in this movie for me.
It does, very weird.
I think for you too as well. Sometimes feels out of place for me. In the original, In the Heat of the Night, he says he's not married.
Yeah.
He also says he doesn't have any children or anything like that. But that was also an ad-lib scene in the first movie.
Yeah, and so I think he gave his character some backstory as he and Rod Steiger like ad-libbed it, and I don't think that he knew whether the character did or not.
It's a great scene in the original movie,
yes.
right? To where for Rod Steiger, his character, more building off of that, not necessarily him. You feel like maybe he could possibly be married, and he's just not saying anything to him. It's a scene that doesn't really give a lot of exposition,
right,
but does give a lot at the same time. But we just don't know, and it's not consistent enough for this movie.
Yes, I agree.
And if that's a major plot point for this movie, not really even a plot point, but like something to fill time in the movie, why? You know? It almost becomes why. There's a lot of times that we're watching this, I'm like, why? Why do we have this in a movie? Go ahead.
And it is definitely, it's not the same wife. It's not the same character as in the TV show.
The TV show. Right, yeah.
Which is a whole different
ball game
issue. Yeah. But it's like a different wife altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I did not go back and double check whether he actually was married in the books or not.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
there's like, what, 7 or 9 books?
Yeah, there's 8 or 9 Virgil Tibbs books. And
which I didn't think there was that many. I didn't even think there was more than 2.
Oh yeah,
but there is.
He's like a Perry Mason type. He's a detective, and he has like all these detective novels about him, which is great. Part of me wants to go back and read all these. They're by John Ball is the original creator. So if anybody knows about those or wants to check them out, or just wants to drop a note to us and let us know if you've read them. Fantastic, but I'm interested in checking them out.
Yes.
So.
Valerie Tibbs is played by Barbara McNair.
Yes. Who
later would have some trouble of her own through... she got caught with a bunch of heroin at the Playboy Mansion in 1972, a year after the third movie of the Tibbs movies, The Organization, came out.
Yeah.
So this is a trilogy, you would say.
Yeah.
But we're going to get into why maybe this movie works and why it doesn't.
Yeah.
At the same time. The prostitute is killed by what we think is a 3-armed man. We're not for sure, but the opening scene is the scene of the crime, and she is being choked by whoever it is. Yeah. We don't know. We see 2 hands upon the neck, and then we also see the guy reach for a blunt instrument to knock her over the head while he still has both of his hands on her neck.
Yes.
So we're looking for a 3-armed man. We don't know, but people have pointed that out before in the past. It is a mistake. It is something that's kind of funny. It opens it up and becomes kind of kitschy in itself.
Yeah.
And kind of takes you out of the movie right away.
It does.
Having said that, I'm not saying this is a bad movie.
No.
There are points to the movie that are fine. But I didn't even really like the detective aspect of the story. I did not prefer the family part of it at all. I thought that was weird, and I thought that was out of characteristic of Tibbs.
Yeah.
From the first movie.
Yeah, so I guess my whole... I don't know. First
off,
he
likes to slap people, so he slaps his son 3 or 4 times.
Well, in the first movie, And the first movie, about as titillating as things got, was when the one police officer pulls up his car and you can see the girl in her window.
Right.
But everything's covered up. This one immediately
done in a very
starts
nice
with,
manner, by the way.
Yes.
Like in a very okay.
Yeah, but it's kind of got that like sleazy feel to it. This one is like,
but less is more.
It opens up on like kind of this. It almost has more of like a psychedelic, kind of film thing.
What do I say? Like it looks like 6 lava lamps in one.
Yes,
and like
that's
these
exactly right.
Bright lights keep kind of blinking.
It keeps flashing.
It's
to
very
like
70s, very early 70s.
Yes.
Late 60s, and it doesn't fit well with Tibbs, right?
No.
There's nothing cool about Tibbs in this movie, but the soundtrack and being in San Francisco tries to make him cool, but he's not cool to me.
Yeah.
There's almost a geek quality about Tibbs, I'm sorry, not Gibbs. Thinking of NCIS or something like that. But there's almost like this geek quality. Yeah, there's geek quality about him that I do enjoy, right? And I don't think I got that in this movie.
Yeah,
I think they were trying to make him be cool, and then like, why?
I think that opening was way too psychedelic for the rest of the movie. Mm-hmm. Like that would have worked if the movie had a certain like tone to it. Like if
that
you were more if the bad guys were like ex-hippies, or like the drug trade aspect was a bigger piece, or like an acid trip in the middle of it or something, like that all would have made more sense to me. But
this movie is 5 years too late and 10 years too early.
Yeah, I would agree.
Do you know what I mean? Including the soundtrack, which is a great soundtrack.
Yes.
The music is wonderful. Does not fit the movie.
Yeah.
I think this movie...
Quincy Jones again.
Yeah, Quincy Jones again. Great music. But it almost feels like it should be Superfly. Should be in one of those...
honestly, it felt like the movie felt like it had elements where it wanted to try to be like a blaxploitation film. And it just did not... It didn't go that direction.
It's like blaxploitation light.
Yeah, it was... I don't know. It was... I couldn't quite put my finger on it. But it's like it wanted to be a bunch of things.
I couldn't put my 3 hands around it.
And basically the rundown real quick is that Virgil, some guy, basically the prostitute gets choked and bludgeoned, and the handyman in the building comes in to grab her trash to throw it out, and then realizes she's been killed. The owner of the building is like, hey, I'll take care of it. And says, hey, I just saw this preacher, Morgan Sharp, running for it.
Right. He's a big, pulpit politician.
Yeah, he's like
reform neighborhood kind of...
He's like a liberal street preacher talking about, we need to, smaller government. And, basically he was trying to get away from... He's like, the government isn't taking care of us, so we need to take care of our own neighborhoods, and, people need to go together, and the money needs to be reallocated to individual neighborhoods.
But it felt like Tibbs and him were supposed to be friends, but I never got the feeling like they really were.
Yeah, it didn't.
Did you?
Yes and no. At first, I thought, well, so anyway, they say it's Sharp, and when they call everything in, the owner of the building, who's played by Zerby, basically,
wasn't Tom Skerritt?
No. It wasn't.
Could have fooled me.
What, really?
Yeah, I thought it was Tom Skerritt.
Oh no, did not even look close.
Oh, shut up! You were like, oh, look at the prostitute, Catherine Hahn.
And she did look Catherine Hahn for a second.
She did for a second.
But they call it in anonymously, and they're just like, oh, we hear it's Sharp and whatever, and so they go and tell Tibbs because they know he's friends with him. Or, somehow connected to him.
But I didn't get any of that.
Right, and I thought maybe he was part of his,
I thought that too, but then I'm like...
And then they show him, in a scene where,
but he's not
having
praying with
a
them.
church service. And then as people clear out, I realize he's there with other detectives. So I'm like, oh, so you're not part of this.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it's just like a community thing, like he just knows him through the community aspect, or what. But like Morgan Sharp is like he coaches football and he like does all this stuff and he's like for the people. They had they went to his house. They go and collect all his clothes because the gal had new carpet, and so they're looking for these carpet fibers, and there was like broken glass, so they're looking for that. And they come up with nothing, so he gets marked off as like a suspect. And they bounce around through some other people.
Yeah, but I don't feel like he was a friend. I feel like Gillespie was more of a friend in the first movie to him than this guy was. You know what I mean?
It was very,
Gillespie,
like,
he didn't even like him. He was just like stuck with him.
It reminded me of the way that their friendship is. It reminds me of like, you know how in TV shows when they go, oh, it's my old friend so-and-so,
right,
who you've never heard of and you will never hear from
You'll
again.
never see him again. Like it felt like guest starring this week, Martin Landau.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was like that kind of
felt like
that
it felt like a TV show anyway.
Where it's like you just have to accept that they're somehow friends and there's nothing really there that shows that they are.
Right, but since this is a movie, I need a little bit more build up with that. That's just me though. But you know.
Right, like if they were doing stuff together as like family before that, or like
right,
they were working together, and then he was like, "Hey, Virgil," you know, and told him whatever. So yeah, they go around. They figure out that the building owner tells them that like that's a sublease on the apartment that the girl was in. It belongs to another real estate guy. They traded apartments or something like that to house each other's mistresses or whatever.
Sure, something like that.
And it was
Eddie Asner.
Yeah, Edward Asner. And he, like, I know it's a toupee or like a wig.
It's a toupee, yeah.
But it made him look a lot younger.
Like I said, they call me Mr. Wiggs.
Mr. Wiggs in hell toupee. So he has so they go to question him, and
he tried to get away.
And it's a ridiculously long scene.
It's a ridiculous.
They have a scene. They go to question him, and he's just like, "Oh, if you'll excuse me, I just need to check whatever." And like he goes out to the hall and like runs away. And his wife is like, "Honey, where are you going?" And she just keeps running because his wife also works at this place. And she's like, "He'll be back." And Tibbs watches him run across the street in like to a car.
There was moments where I felt like this movie wasn't intentionally trying to be funny, and it just is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it just has those moments.
It
and I don't mean like The Room.
Yeah, it literally feels like they smashed a bunch of episodes of Dragnet together. That's what it felt like to me.
It does.
Yeah.
But but like the sets feel like a TV show. Like everything just feels very TV, right?
Yeah.
Because not a lot of stuff is outside.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff was outside in the first movie.
Yeah.
So it made you feel, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, you know, that was part of, like, the town, the small southern town is a character in itself.
Yes.
And to me, I'm like, I don't feel like San Francisco
No,
is like even that important. So I'm like, why didn't you just keep him in Philadelphia?
Yeah.
Or Pasadena or whatever.
It probably was cheaper to film closer to there. Mm-hmm. Honestly. They also like I don't know.
And he already had the set from probably The Detective.
Probably.
So he was just like, let's just do that. Yeah.
And honestly, it was pretty weird because like there's stuff. It's just it's like a TV show thing. They go through this big manhunt to get this big chase and manhunt to get Ed Asner. His car like blows up basically when he wrecks it. But then they're like, oh, he's innocent and free to go because his fingernails were long, which means it would have left impressions on her neck.
Right.
But then we don't have the scene. The scene that actually talks about the fingernails with the choking doesn't come up until the next scene.
Right.
So
everything's just out of place.
It just felt like it was out of order.
Also, like, they're like, how did she get the bruising on the back of her neck? It was probably from a wristwatch. I don't know anyone that chokes with like that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, they were talking about necklaces and whatever else, and so they look at it.
Yeah, but even that didn't amount to much because that was just the other prostitutes
No.
Or what?
It did, eventually.
Kind of.
But they kind of look at it, and, like, Tibbs looks through some necklaces, and he sees one and puts it back, and he's just kind of, like, looking through which ones look like they might be hers. Or that could have made the bruising on her neck. And then they have, like, a whole thing, then, like, he chases down the maintenance guy who's hiding, and then he goes back to, like, the drug-dealing pimp building owner, and, like, that guy gets killed, and then, like, they go through this whole thing.
But it feels like you're trying to cut budget, so you're just reusing a set over and over. So
yes,
like,
it was.
Let's go back to the pimp's
apartment, like, over and over.
Which also looks like the whore's apartment.
Yes.
I'm sorry, prostitute's apartment.
There
Sorry.
you go. But yes. And so, like, they keep doing it over and over. And eventually, like, he's looking and he realizes, he goes back and talks to, the girl's name is, I think, Puff, because she's, like, the pothead.
Yes.
Whatever,
Puff.
his girlfriend, the pimp's girlfriend. And so he talks to her, and he was like, wait, you got whatever because you went back into her apartment. And you went back into her apartment so that you could get, what were you looking for? And realized she was looking for her necklace. The one he looked at earlier. But when he went and looked at it, it wasn't there. And then he remembered he commented on Sharp wearing a necklace earlier.
Oh.
And then
well, that's Beverly Todd. She played Don Cheadle's mom in Crash.
Oh.
Terrible movie.
Yeah. Interesting. By the way, Ed Asner's wife was the lady who played Golda in Fiddler on the Roof. So,
directed by Norman Jewison.
Yeah,
the original director. Okay,
yeah,
it all comes back.
But they,
I enjoyed Puff, by the way.
Yeah, she was a fine character.
She was a fine character. Yeah,
yeah, she was.
She had a good scene towards the end.
Yes, she did.
Quite enjoyed.
Well, they realized. Tibbs realizes that, wait, the necklace she was going for, I saw that earlier, but it wasn't there. Also, Sharp had on a necklace earlier, and he said it was his mother's. And so he goes to a jeweler. Just apparently there's only one in San Francisco.
There is.
And he realizes that Sharp
his name is Jim Diamond. It's me, Jim Diamond.
Selling to Bayside.
Selling those class rings to Bayside.
So he goes and realizes that he has...
My girlfriend, Slay Moon Fry.
He has... that he, like, replaced the clasp. And that's what it was from. Was because the clasp broke because he yanked it off her neck. And that's what the bruise came from.
Yeah.
And so the original person who was accused was the guilty fucking person.
Yeah, the whole time.
It was the biggest waste of time.
It's like you're watching a Columbo show and you're like, oh, the guest star... That's him. Yeah. That's the killer.
Yeah.
You know?
But it just felt
Joan Collins is on this week? It's her.
But it also felt like such a waste because, like...
Oh, it is a waste.
Tibbs, the whole time, is like, it's not him. Like, I'm positive it's not him, or
No, it felt like Tibbs didn't want it to be him because it was his friend.
Yeah.
And if we are going to throw... Like, I thought... Okay, we're not using this correctly. What made the first movie so great... Not only the fish out of water aspect, but the fact of class and education,
yes,
race, anything that separates the two factions from each other. We could have done that with politics and religion, and we did nothing with that.
Correct.
And I thought, what a wasted opportunity to do that.
It was. Well, and you and I had this conversation too about like how problematic the heat in the heat of the night TV show is, because
I just saw the pilot. I don't really,
Well, no, but it is like.
Oh, you mean like the white savory?
Yeah,
kind
because
of stuff that comes with it. Yeah.
There's In the Heat of the Night, which is tense, the movie, and then they were like, let's make a TV show.
Yeah.
And like the white people are all wise and kind. That's the old South, and like there's no racism.
There can't be racist.
Yeah, at least no overt racism. The bad guys are always the ones who are super racist. And so
there's not like the racist light people. There's nothing like that.
No.
There's either you're racist or you're not.
Yeah.
And you're white both times.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's not. So it's very problematic in that aspect.
Yeah, it's problematic.
With systematic
in the fact that
racism.
It felt like they were saying, did you like In the Heat of the Night, but
Right.
that racism made you feel bad?
But that made
We'll
you feel
get
a
rid of
little
that.
bit uncomfortable.
Yeah. So we'll
Because-
get rid of that part.
Because come on, you're not racist, right? No,
Yeah.
you are.
And even like Tibbs in the pilot seemed like a little bit like, it was like
Right, it
Carol
was like-
O'Connor was wise and he was
Right.
the old guy who was there.
But it was like, oh, the black guy's
yeah.
coming to take my job away.
yeah, and was very callous about it.
Yes,
Like,
and you're like, and I got the contract.
yeah.
Where's my office?
It just felt it was like way
and
opposite
I'm like,
of what it was.
why are you writing it like this?
Yeah.
It's so no.
Yes. Well, I almost get the same feeling with this. It felt like they were, hey, did you like Virgil Tibbs? But the first movie was like way intense. Let's take it out of a setting.
Right. You don't get me wrong. They don't give Sidney Poitier the material to chew any scene up.
No.
Like they waste him, right?
Yeah.
There's those moments with the family that I guess maybe are supposed to supply that.
Yeah.
But it almost becomes awkward.
Yes.
And I think we should talk about that. Because we talked a lot about the detective part of it.
Yes.
But we bring in the family aspect.
Right.
Which, again, I think if you're going to do that, you better do that, but have that kind of crossover with the case or have that, like, help them with the case
Yeah.
a little bit, which it did a little bit, but not enough for me to satisfy us having these scenes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like, I don't know how you felt with the family stuff.
Yeah.
But especially with the son. I felt like this was where I kind of was like lost.
Yeah, I
lot
was too. Like it felt like I always think of like when I think of the family stuff mixed into like a cop movie, I think of like Lethal Weapon and how Danny Glover like interacts with his family during it. Like it seemed much more like, oh, here's his family life versus whatever. And like you get like his wife, Virgil Tibbs' wife, I don't even remember what her character's name was. Valerie. Yeah, Valerie.
Virgil and Valerie.
Yeah,
Valerie.
Valerie. Valerie's like, at first she's like, welcome to see him home and whatever. And like, he comes in and his son is just like blaring music on the TV. And then he goes down to see his daughter and tucks her in. And then they make out over the sleeping daughter.
What?
Yeah. It was weird. And then,
Yes. No, my favorite is like they walk into the daughter's room and you're like, yep, she's fast asleep with all the lights on.
yeah, every light on the set was
Which,
just like
I mean,
blaring.
you do that too, but whatever.
Yeah. But it was like, okay. And so, we also have like later he comes home. Well, his daughter is the wife says that she's having trouble at school in gym. And so the next day he's like trying to help her. She has to stand on her head for 30 seconds for something. Weird, but whatever. But so he's trying to help her with that. Everything seems pretty normal at this point as far as like family life stuff.
And then
Like
he catches his son.
yeah, he comes back later and the daughter's outside standing on her head still practicing. He comes in and like the daughter follows him and then he slaps his wife on the ass and she's like not happy about that. And he's like, I read that if the guy slaps you on the ass, you're supposed to look happy because then that teaches your daughter about
not a Tibbs
positive
to me,
sex message.
Based on the first movie, that is out of character for Tibbs. That is them trying to be like, we gotta make him like urban, and we gotta make him, like
like they tried to like hyper toughen
sexy,
him up.
Yeah. Like, and I'm like, why? Why can't he just be who he is, which is this kind of nerdy but fun in the way that like he knows how to solve a crime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like in a way, and I'm just like, well, that's stupid. And then he runs into his son, catches his son and his friend smoking cigarettes.
Yes.
And so he teaches him a lesson, makes him smoke a stogie and drink, scotch?
Yeah.
Okay. And then slaps his kid 3 times.
Well, that
right?
Okay. So, well,
I mean,
no,
this is child abuse to me.
he gives him that stuff and makes him basically throw up.
Throw up.
But he tells him, you've been acting up, and you're gonna have to, look at this room. It's a mess. You need to be able to take care of yourself, because in a few years, you're gonna be done with school, and you're gonna be out of this house, and you're gonna be this and this. You're not gonna be able to do these other things. You have to decide whether you want to go to into the military and all these other things he's rattling off, and he's just you have to get your shit together because you're almost out of here, or in 10 years you'll be out of here.
Okay.
And
10 years.
Yeah. And so it was this very weird conversation.
Very weird.
I was again, I don't feel like Virgil would make his kid force him to smoke a cigar until he barfs.
No.
But then also so then later on he comes back or he had told him, you need to be nicer to your sister, was whatever, because he was just picking on her. So when he comes home later, the wife is walking upstairs with the daughter who's holding her arm, and she's your son punched her and twisted her arm and threw her Legos all over the room. And he says he doesn't have to listen to us and doesn't have to whatever. And then she goes into you're never here, you're never around, you're late for dinner again, and all this. And I'm whoa, what happened? That was a really big jump. That didn't come up. Everything seemed happy earlier, and all of a sudden this comes up. And so he goes downstairs to talk to his son, and there's Legos everywhere, old-timey Legos. And he's he goes, could you please clean this up for me? Which I'm also that also doesn't seem like Virgil, that he would just be hey, buddy, would you do whatever?
No.
And it seemed like he's trying to be buddy with his son. His son's he's I need you to not hit your sister, and I need you to whatever. And he goes, but she annoys me because
I'm
blah,
sorry.
blah, blah.
If you could put up with racists in the South, you can get your kid to pick up his Legos.
Yes.
You've got the skills to do that.
Right.
But you solve homicides for a living.
Yeah.
You've seen worse.
Yes. And then he asks him to do it, and the kid says no. And then he's slap. Just slaps him fucking hard across the face.
Hard.
And I was oh my God, Virgil.
Yes.
And then he goes,
this guy's not Alicott from the first movie.
Endcott from the first movie.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Yeah. And so he goes, he was you going to clean your room up? And the kid's just kind of no. And then he slaps him again. He's I don't want to do this, but you got to clean your room. Are you going to clean it? And whatever. And he's talking. And he slaps the kid again when the kid said no. And he's on the verge of tears. And he slaps him again. And he's just I don't want to do this, buddy. And blah, blah, blah. And he's just no matter how many times you do this, I'm not going to clean it up. And then he just hugs his son. And I was what a weird fucking scene.
Weird scene.
And then we never come back to the family after that.
Yes, we don't. Do we? Well, we do at the end when they're all out there. When
yes, when they make the arrest
Martin
of
Landau, when they make the
Martin
arrest.
Landau.
Yeah.
But that's it.
That's about it. And I felt like it was the end shot was supposed to be look, we're a happy family. And I'm are you? You don't feel like a happy family.
Yeah, it was weird. I was trying
You should be a happy family because there should be nothing wrong with your family.
Yeah.
You should be like any other normal family in the world.
I tried to figure out if there was supposed to be some symbolic meaning to any of that. It didn't really feel like there was.
It didn't feel like it. I felt like they were we have to, like you said, we have to make it more down to a level. It does dumb the movie down for the audience a little bit.
I think so.
Now, I'm not saying, again, this is a fine movie. It's shot fine. It's acted really well.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, for what they have.
Yes.
But what they have isn't necessarily as great as the first movie. Nothing is going to be with just the amount of just electricity that those two actors brought to the screen. You're not going to capture that again, right?
No.
Not unless you have those actors again.
Yeah.
So it's a little hard. I get it, but
The only thing I can think of...
then rewrite or do something.
The only thing I could think that they were trying to get to with all of that was that, you know, here's this preacher who put on this, like, exterior that people thought he was one way, but he was somewhere else, something else in private. And that the same is true with Virgil, that he puts on this, you know, good family exterior that we see at the end, but, like, in private they're not.
But in both instances, it just does not work. It fails.
Yeah.
It doesn't reach up to that symbolism.
Yeah, it's just very, I don't know. It is. It's awkward.
But Sidney Poitier is wonderful in this movie.
Oh yeah, very much
for
so.
what he is given, which is not the right material, because again, it's like where Sidney Poitier is given something where it's like you're the most important person because you have to show everything that a whole race has been put on pawn. And that's a big thing to lift on just one person's shoulders to begin with. But it feels like every movie that has to be it for Sidney Poitier. And as much as like these movies of his do have that aspect, like they don't always have to be like that, right?
Yeah.
And if they are, then let him chew scenes up. He's an actor that can act. Let him do it. Give
Honestly,
him
like,
stuff.
it just feels like they're trying to get him to be more of an action star. Because
especially the kung fu, like the
he has
chopping
a couple like where he
scene.
starts hitting people and he's like really like karate chopping people in the neck and like, doing stuff. It's very weird, especially like him fighting in the heat of the night. It's kind of raw, kind of like, you know. He's not like some kung fu master, but like here he's it's very cheesy TV fight. Whoop. And so
with the Quincy Jones like soundtrack.
Yeah, and the
so it feels like
soundtracks-
Batman's gonna be like bing.
Yeah, the
ow.
soundtracks between the two of them are so different too. Like,
I mean,
the
I get
last
why.
the last one was in the heat of the night. Like it has
country.
It has
blues.
like country. It almost has this like, so it has like a swamp. Like at times there's like, it's like swamp rock combined with funk. And you get that kind of like, oh yeah, okay, like it fits so well. But here it just sounds like really generic funk music. And so it's like, I don't know, like nothing felt like it was, it just felt like a TV show.
It didn't fit. Again, it didn't fit what we know of Tibbs.
Yeah.
Everything that this movie was given towards Sidney Poitier's character did not fit what we know from the first movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so putting it all together did not work. You know, as much as they wanted to, it doesn't. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yes.
Do we want to do our 5 questions?
No, we just want to. Okay, we've been doing.
I don't know.
Okay, yeah,
I don't know what else there is to say about this, really.
I mean, we've said a lot, but go ahead.
I just don't know. There's really not that much depth to a lot of this.
No, let's do our 5 questions then.
What do you think is the best part of this movie?
Sidney Poitier is the best part of this movie. I mean, there's no doubt about it. He is the movie. It's Mr. Tibbs.
Yeah.
He is Mr. Tibbs.
Yeah.
Kudos to Martin Landau at the end.
Yeah.
Having a scene.
Yeah, his scene was great there.
That was good. But for the most part, it's Poitier's movie.
Yeah, I mean, Sidney Poitier does really well with what he's given. I think it's not the greatest script, I don't think.
No.
But he's Sidney Poitier. He does he does great with other things. I wish he had more stuff to like that was just more pure dramatic. Maybe let him like, you know, get some speeches off or something like that. But
also he's funny, so give him funny things.
Exactly.
It's fine.
Yeah. Well, gee, I was gonna say Sidney Poitier, but maybe I'll see Ed Asner.
You could say it too. Oh, Ed Asner's wonderful in this movie. I don't know, the guy with 3 hands, he's great too.
No, I mean the
The
characters.
music is
overall,
great too in this. It's wrong for the movie.
Yeah, I think so. I would say Sidney Poitier too is the best part. Like, I wish they would have given him more to do, but like with what he works with, like, I believe like he's that police detective. I agree with you though. Like in the first one, it was almost more of like he was much more into the science aspect of it. That kind of a detective where he was.
Yes, the most clinical thing he says is semen.
Oh yeah, this is the oldest movie I've ever heard the word semen in. It was pretty crazy. But in the Heat of the Night's the first oldest movie I can think of with the word abortion in it
That's true.
that I ever saw. So, there you go. But yeah, Sidney Poitier does a great job. Do you think this movie stands on its own?
And yeah, because they changed so much
Yeah.
that it does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's no reference to the first movie
Except for the title,
except for the title,
which is just a cash grab.
which is definitely just a cash grab.
Yeah.
Because you just are like, oh, well, he's Mr. Tibbs.
I meant to mention, nobody calls him Mr. Tibbs in this movie at all, despite the name.
No.
They either call him
They say Virgil Tibbs?
They call him either Virgil, or they call him Lieutenant Tibbs.
Or Lieutenant Tibbs. Yeah,
Nobody calls him Mr.
Mr.
Tibbs
Tibbs.
at all. I was waiting for it, and I did not catch it. Nobody calls him Mr. Tibbs.
No, but besides that, I think it stands on its own, which
Yeah.
is a bad thing because I think they changed too much.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think just by the virtue of like how far the stands away from there, like, it's because then you can kind of take it. It's almost like you could have taken it anywhere, and it did go somewhere far away from the original one, like, and to an awkward place. But like it's so far removed. It's not like it went back to Philadelphia, because then we could at least say, oh, he lived in Philadelphia, or he's single. Oh yeah, he's single. He said that in the first one. He's both married with children and living in San Francisco, and has been employed there for many years.
Right. They're like,
so-
this is your 12th year here.
Yeah.
We've had you for 12 years. What?
Yeah, what? And so it's confusing.
1967 was
Right.
when he was in the South.
So it's confusing to me because, like, I mean, it's outside of the name, nothing connects.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's very odd.
Name an actor. That's it.
Yes, name an actor. Nothing else.
Yeah. Ridiculous. Does this make you want to watch the first one?
This movie doesn't make me want to watch the first one.
Yeah. If I would have seen this one first, I don't think I'd have been interested in the first one.
No. Tonally and just cinematically, everything is so different. They're very different movies, right? Mm-hmm. So like you said, when we were watching this, I could see why people who liked the first movie might be upset by this movie.
Yeah.
This movie is very, like, the soundtrack is so fast, and then the dialogue is so slow.
Yes.
So it doesn't mix very well with me.
Yeah, it feels the pace is off somehow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you with that. It does not, like, if this was the only one I had watched in the series, I would not want to watch the first one, because I would assume it was more of the same.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like watching Dragnet. Like, it just feels like a generic cop procedural TV show of the day. So,
Law and Order, SVU, San Francisco.
yeah, Dragnet, Adam 12, that kind of stuff.
Whatever, yeah.
Yeah. Would you reboot, continue, or cancel?
Oh, you want to hear my answer on this one?
Yes.
Well, you know that HBO, we were talking about this. HBO did a Perry Mason remake.
Yes.
I think, and I think you might agree with me, this is probably in your head too, maybe somewhere down the line, like say season 3, Perry Mason runs into, with his case, where it bumps into one of Virgil Tibbs' cases, and then they spin him off.
Yeah. I mean, because that would have to be many years down the road, though, because I think right now it's taking place in, the 20s?
Oh, is it the 20s? Oh, damn, you're right. Oh man, then that won't work.
It's,
Man, I guess you could.
Maybe it's like the 30s. It's before World War II, but after World
Oh,
War
then
I.
it would have to be way down the road then.
Yeah,
Had to be
I'm
when
pretty
he
sure
was
that's
old.
when Perry Mason happened with the books and the movie.
Then
Or the
just
TV
do.
show.
Then just have a show of his own. You don't need to spin
Yeah.
off him. Just have him.
Oh,
you know,
no.
Tibbs the show.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember when Perry Mason when they said it. Because the TV show is set modern.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I
So,
guess
but,
it would have to be. Yeah.
But I'm interested in like where that's going, and maybe if they flash forward far enough. But
Yeah.
I don't know when John Ball's books are set. I assumed it was in the 60s,
Yeah.
but it could be earlier. I really don't know enough about the book to tell
True.
you quite honestly. So maybe it would work.
Maybe,
and,
who knows?
Maybe it's
Well,
just-
what do you say?
I just say I was thinking the same thing as far as like HBO making a show. I would rather have a show similar to Perry Mason, how we delved into his backstory and eventually worked up to where
Do you want it to be period or do you want it to be modern?
I want it to be a period thing, but I would rather it be a
What about an
period story.
exclamation point?
Quotation marks? Yeah.
Umlaut?
Ampersand. Octothorpe.
Octothorpe. Damn it. You
I was
beat me
going to
to
beat
it.
you to that. But no, like I thought getting it to the point where it's like, okay.
Diphthong.
Diphthong. Getting it to the point where it's like, let's explore his past, or like maybe him coming up as a cop in Philadelphia.
In West Philadelphia.
Coming up through the ranks or whatever, and becoming a detective or becoming that like science nerd detective who's getting his chance. And then maybe like season 3.
Yeah, something
is
like that.
In the heat of the night.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about that. Like season 3 could be where he is in the heat of the night.
Yes.
So we get that aspect, but like
Right.
it's not the whole show.
Correct. Like
So it's like a Hannibal, but like Silence of the Lambs is like season 4 or 5.
yes, exactly.
Or Red Dragon is like
Yes,
season,
it's season 3.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly what I'm thinking. Like, I think you should work your way up to that. But, like, really give us a chance to, like, build up his character. And that way, too, you differentiate it from the original performances of In the Heat of the Night because it's so iconic. And that way it breaks it away from the TV show and the movie a little bit. But, yeah, that's how I would go. But, this actually did have a sequel, or had a third part. We talked about that, called The Organization. It was just reading the premise of it. So just to fill you all in. After a group of young revolutionaries breaks into a corporation's headquarters and steals $5 million worth of heroin to keep it off the streets, they call on San Francisco Police Lieutenant Virgil Tibbs for assistance. Though sympathetic to their cause, the straight arrow Tibbs refuses to consider it because they broke the law. But when the group is accused of murder it didn't commit, Tibbs finally joins them in order to ferret out the identity of the real killer, while keeping his now rogue undercover investigation a secret from his SFPD superiors.
What?
Yeah, and the drug dealers that run the organization are all like drug dealing and hitmen businessmen. So like there's a guy in like a 3-piece suit across the building with a sniper rifle, like shooting people in one scene.
Can't wait to watch it.
Oh my god! And Raul Julia's in it.
Yes.
So yeah,
Perfect.
good times.
Mm-hmm.
So, describe your experience in 2 words.
My 2 words are Nodgepodge.
Nodgepodge?
That like not podge. Because it's a hodgepodge of nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like a whole cornucopia of ideas that don't quite work. Nodgepodge. Not podge. Get it? I don't. Your 2 words?
Tangential sequel. So it's only...
Oh, I'm sorry. I made up a word.
What? Tangential's not... That you made up a word, or
I made up a word. What?
Okay, that's fine. I didn't judge you for that. But
Oh, but I'm judging you for this.
Why are you judging me for tangential? It's an actual word.
I know, but why do you gotta be all highfalutin? Oh, what? Oh, look at you, Virgil Tibbs, being all fancy with your words.
No, it's like it.
How much money do you make?
What?
$163.63.
Oh yeah, $160.39. Also, the guy who played Roger Howitz on Barney Miller is in the sequel too.
Oh, and the
third
organization.
Yeah.
Nice.
But the
I'm gonna watch that now.
I think it's like it's a sequel, and it's not like American Psycho or Single White Female 2, where it has nothing to do with the first one outside of name only.
They purposely did this.
This character, it's the same character, and I think like they wanted to continue the story. But again, the story is so generic that it just feels like it's only just kind of associated with it. Like, you could have replaced Virgil's character with pretty much anybody and had it be the same. Or changed the setting, or changed whatever. Like, it's just very generic, and it's just only tangentially, like, kind of connected to the first one through Virgil. There you go.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, you've been deuced on that one.
You've been deuced.
Yeah. So, here that you can find us in certain places.
Yes, you can.
Is one of those places YouTube?
Apparently.
Because we had a lot of downloads for our last episode, 166, the Miser Brothers episode on YouTube.
We did.
We had like 40 views on YouTube.
Wow.
And we're not even showing anything on YouTube. It's just a picture and us talking.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring that up. And we also have a Facebook page.
We do.
And go ahead and tell people about the Facebook page.
So the Facebook page...
how do you get into the Facebook page?
So you just look up The Deuce.
Mm-hmm.
So
but do you have to ask, like, is there like a question that you
There
get
is.
asked? What's
There
the
is.
question?
We ask, what is the show about, to make sure that you know what it is. Because in the past, we had a lot of people who were coming in to see The Deuce on HBO.
The Deuce on HBO.
Now, that is past.
That movie, or that show's done.
Yes. We, for a while, like, so it was big, like, when it was first in America, we got a ton of, like, American things. As it went to other countries, those countries did the same thing. Mm-hmm. Now it's pretty well faded off.
Yes, it's faded
Hooray.
off. We got a lady last week
Yes.
who wanted to join our Facebook group.
She did.
And
Should I read what it
Go ahead, read
should
this.
I read what it says?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to read this. Let me get it pulled up here. Because it is pretty...
But it does prompt you to ask. It asks a question.
Yes.
What is the Deuce podcast about?
Yes, it does.
And does it let you fill it in too? Does it give you like a choice and then fill in?
Yeah, you get to fill in what it is. So we say, what is the Deuce podcast? And they said, a podcast about movie sequels. Doing great so far. Because usually people fail at that point because they say, a show on HBO.
We're not trying to trick our...
Yeah, they say it's a show on HBO. And then I go, sorry, wrong.
Right.
I'm sorry, you called the wrong number. And so
We don't want to
say,
look. If these people are baggage Gyllenhaal completists, we do not want to, not have the, give them updates, which we don't know about.
Yeah, and then I said, why would you like to join the Deuce podcast page? And they said, updates on Yellowstone.
Now, last time I checked, Yellowstone, a show on Paramount Plus, has nothing to do with the Deuce, and is also not a movie sequel. So they got the first question right, but the second one, they wanted updates from a television show called Yellowstone. So they want updates of a Yellowstone, to which I think I responded to you, here's my update of Yellowstone. Yep, still yellow. What do they want? Anyway, so if you do want to join our Facebook group,
be prepared to answer
a
couple questions.
There are other ways that you can join in on the fun. Jeremy, what are those other ways?
You can go to Twitter at Deuce Podcast. You can go to Google Play, Stitcher, Apple Podcast. A lot of those podcatchers you can find us at. So definitely check that out. Yeah. And then if you're on Twitter looking us up at Deuce Podcast, you can also find a lot of our podcast mates there. If you do hashtag AUN for Always Up Network, you can find a lot of podcasts that way as well.
To which I think I also said about the Yellowstone thing, we would give more of an update on Jellystone than Yellowstone.
That's correct, yes.
You know, the bear aspect of
Yes.
it. Which then you said we should do a podcast about, what was it called? The Hanna-Barbarians?
The Hanna-Barbarians, where we just do podcasts about, we savagely review
rip
Hanna-Barbera shows.
Hanna-Barbera shows?
So if you think we should continue and do Hanna-Barbarians, let us know.
Hanna-Barbarians.
Please let us know.
Yes.
We're very
I want
intrigued.
to pump you up. Episode 44 is Laugh Olympics.
Squiddly diddly is a
Squiddly
piece
diddly.
of crap.
Dastardly. All right. Be safe out there. Get vaccinated, boosted, wear a mask. Do all the things that you should be doing. Don't listen to stupid people. Be safe. And remember, the sequel is king.